In the sweltering heat of Chiang Mai's jungle-fringed hills, a grey giant stood motionless as tourists passed by, unaware that moments earlier, a sharp crack had pierced the air. It wasn't a falling branch. It was the sound of a bullhook splitting skin. Blood darkened the crease behind her ear, but she didn't cry out. She simply blinked. Her name was Molly. She had carried tourists for years without question. But this time, someone had seen everything, and refused to look away. A woman with a phone, hands shaking, heart racing. What she captured would spark outrage, investigations, and ultimately, something no one expected. What led to this moment? And how far would one stranger go to make it right? This is not just a story about cruelty. It's a story about courage. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. For most of her adult life, Linda traveled with a quiet purpose. A retired nurse from Oregon, she spent her time volunteering abroad, seeking not adventure, but meaning. In 2017, she arrived in northern Thailand with a suitcase full of medical supplies and a camera she barely knew how to use. Each morning, she joined tourists on guided treks through jungle paths, riding in open trucks, sipping sweet coffee with condensed milk. She loved animals, especially elephants. To her, they were wise, gentle souls. She believed, like many, that these creatures were cared for. At one camp near Chiang Mai, she watched them paint pictures, give rides, even bow. It all looked so peaceful. But behind those careful performances, something was hidden. Something she wasn't meant to see. And soon, everything she thought she understood would begin to crack. The morning haze hadn't lifted when Linda heard it, the sharp, unnatural sound echoing across the clearing. She turned instinctively, camera in hand, and saw a young elephant flinch as the bullhook landed again. The handler's face was blank, mechanical, as if striking the animal was routine. Tourists nearby looked away, some unsure, others indifferent. But Linda stood frozen, heart pounding. The elephant, Molly, didn't cry out. She just lowered her head slowly, as if surrendering to something too old to fight. In that moment, Linda's world shifted. The painted smiles, the cheerful tours, none of it could hide what she had just seen. Her hands trembled as she raised her camera. This wasn't a show. It was suffering, masked by palm trees and ticket booths. And now, she had a choice to make. Walk away, or do something no one around her dared. Linda uploaded the footage that evening from the corner of a dim cafe, Wi-Fi weak, hands still unsteady. She expected outrage, maybe swift action. But instead came silence, then warnings. A staff member from the camp approached her the next morning, smiling too wide, asking too many questions. Tour guides avoided her. Her hotel room had clearly been entered, belongings shifted ever so slightly. And Molly, she was gone. Moved, they said, for her safety. But Linda had seen the wound. A deep, inflamed gash beneath her ear, already darkening. No bandages. No vet. No one speaking. Panic crept in. Was she being watched? Was Molly even alive? The jungle now felt unfamiliar. Friendly faces blurred into shadows. Linda realized this wasn't just about cruelty. It was a business. And those protecting it had something to lose. Late that night, Linda sat in her room, staring at the flickering screen of her phone. The comments on her post were filled with anger, but none seemed to lead anywhere. Then, one message stood out, an invitation from an unknown volunteer group, Elephant Nature Park. We saw the footage. We can help. Her heart raced. A small but powerful spark ignited within her. She remembered something she had read just days before: the park had rescued elephants like Molly. Maybe they knew where she had been moved. Maybe they had a plan. She quickly replied, not knowing how or when, but determined to act. For the first time since the incident, Linda felt a thread of hope. There was still time to do something. Linda didn't wait. The next morning, she snuck past the camp's main office, clutching a hastily scribbled map from the volunteer group. Her hands shook as she reached the back of the compound, the thick jungle air pressing in on her. There, chained to a post, was Molly. Her eyes were dull, and the wound behind her ear was worse, red and swollen. Linda's heart pounded as she approached, breath caught in her throat. She had no medical supplies, no plan beyond getting Molly out of there. She pulled out her phone, quickly dialing the number the volunteer had given her. They promised help, but she knew the clock was ticking. Suddenly, a shadow moved. Someone was coming. Her body tensed. The moment of truth was here. If she was caught, the consequences would be severe. But there was no turning back now. Linda sat in the small, dimly lit room, her eyes fixed on the phone in her hands. The minutes stretched into hours as the world outside seemed to hold its breath. No calls. No messages. The only sound was the distant rustle of leaves in the wind and the soft hum of a fan. Her mind replayed every step of the escape, every whispered word from the volunteer group, every movement she had made to get Molly away from that camp. Was it enough? Was it too late? She looked out the window, knowing she couldn't stay here forever. The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she refused to give in to the doubt. It had to be enough. But would it be? The call came just before dawn. Linda's heart raced as she picked up. "We have her. She's safe," the voice on the other end said, breathless but full of relief. Molly was alive. The rescue team had reached her just in time, treating the wound and bringing her to Elephant Nature Park. Linda could barely breathe, the weight of weeks of fear and uncertainty lifting all at once. She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. After everything, it had worked. She had saved her. Molly, the elephant who had once been a prisoner, now stood free, no longer broken, no longer silent. And for Linda, this moment would be the start of a new journey. Linda often thought back to the moment she first saw Molly, the way the elephant's eyes had seemed to understand more than she should have. Since then, her life had changed in ways she hadn't expected. The rescue wasn't just about one animal, it was about speaking up when others stayed silent, about choosing to see and act, even when the world turned away. Every day, the volunteers at Elephant Nature Park shared the same message: this isn't just one story. There are many more. Linda knew that now. She'd found her voice, and it had saved a life. But that voice couldn't be silent again. There were still others waiting. And this time, she wouldn't wait for someone else to speak. Molly's story didn't end with her rescue. It was only the beginning of something much bigger, something that could change the way we view animals and our relationship with them. Every day, there are more elephants like her, more voices that need to be heard. And it's up to us to be their voice. So, thank you for watching this story. Thank you for being a part of the movement to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Your voice matters. If you believe in standing up for animals, like, share, and comment below. We all have a role to play. And remember, this story is far from over. Together, we can make a difference.